Hi, welcome to the Georgia Department of Education Orchestra Community. I'm Sean Morton. I'm your community moderator. And we're going to talk this month a little bit about our back to class backpack. By back to class backpack, I mean maybe how we transition back after a semester change, or even coming back up for a new school year, coming back after digital learning, coming back after a long holiday break. So, just some strategies about organizing our classroom and then some technique building ideas to help get us back on track with our students. So, first, we're going to talk about establishing or reestablishing routines and organizing our classrooms and setting them up for success. So, the importance of routines. First, I will say that your routine can look very different from my routine or your neighbor's routine or any number of other teachers' routines in your building or nearby. You need to find a routine that's going to work for you and your organizational style, but the idea is to just have a routine. When we have a clear routine, our classes just run smoother. Students really do better and really function better when they know what to expect, where things go, and what the general ideas and plans are. And so when your classroom is set up and is running efficiently, then you have much less downtime and there's less wasted time, and students are going to be more productive. This is going to lead to less disruptions, less behavioral challenges, and it just makes the flow of the day go so much easier. So, while it's a little more work on the front end sometimes to set up these routines and procedures, it really pays off on the other side when our students are functioning well and our day is running really smooth. When our learning environment is set up for success, then our students are just more likely to be successful. And by having these routines, it allows us to also build those relationships with students and have time for a positive exchange versus us being reactive to student behavior. When we're proactive, then we have a much more higher chance of having positive relationship building with our students. So I think it's really important just to set up front that we have a routine of some sort. So, setting routines. What sort of things need routines? I remember being a new teacher, and many of us probably got that same book the first days of school. And it was so helpful because there was things I hadn't even thought about, like how do your students come in the room? And every school looks different for that. Some classes, the teachers walk them there. And some schools, it's just a bell and the kids all come in at different times. How many minutes do they have? Where do they unpack their instrument? Where do their backpacks go? Where do their cases go? Where do you have them store extra materials? Do you have room for that? And that's going to depend so much on your setup. I'm fortunate in my classroom, it's very large, and we have a large instrument storage room. And so we're able to store cases in there and keep our setup really clear. Some teachers are fine with cell phones in the rehearsal setup. Once our students tune, I like their cell phones to go away. And so having again just a routine and an expectation. Students will know what to expect. How do you take attendance? Most of our schools have attendance policies and procedures for attendance. And how are you going to do that and get it done efficiently? Generally a seating chart is the quickest way to get attendance done. And having a clear seating chart every day and just being able to go down the row and look really quick. Because with large numbers of students that many of us have, that can be an issue. What do you do about food and drink and chewing gum? And that varies sometimes by school. Are students allowed to have anything other than water? Are they allowed to eat a snack? So just having a policy for those things. What do your students do if they forget their instrument? Is there a school instrument? Where is it located? Do they need to come ask you to use it, or do they just go get it? Do they have an assignment if they forget their instrument? What do you do when they don't have their instrument? Personally, I feel like if you have a school instrument, we have a few that are just set out and they can just grab it and go. I'd rather them be playing than waste time on them not playing. But again, that's what works for my situation. What is your seating chart plan? Do you rotate seats? How do you number your seats? How do students know where they sit? Is there a seating chart posted? So just thinking about how you get the kids seated. What's your tuning procedure? That's going to vary greatly by the level you teach. So I think, the older kids, I teach high school. And so for us, As the more advanced classes come in, I can give an A and they can tune to the A. With my lower level or my younger level classes, then we tune each string and we have some different procedures and some cross tuning we do. For your sixth graders, seventh graders, and mostly eighth graders, they're probably not tuning themselves, or if they are, it's not maybe happening well. And so maybe, what do? Do you only tune the strings you need that day? Are they doing a sponge activity as they come in and you're going around and tuning? But what is your procedure? Otherwise, they're going to be chasing you around with their instruments wanting them tuned. What's your warm up procedure? Do you start every class with call and response? Do you have a scale activity? What do you do to get the kids warmed up and ready to go? What do you do with method books or music? A long time ago, I decided that I was no longer going to fight the fight of students losing music. And so we have binders that live on the stand that have the music, and then they have practice copies. For me, that works. Some teachers, they feel very passionately that students need to be responsible for their music and keep up with it. And so they have a different method. You have to do what works for you. But again, just having a procedure. What happens when they lose their music or they can't find something? For example, we have librarians in every class that if they've lost a piece of music out of their binder, they don't ask me. They never ask me. They go ask the librarian who knows how to go pull the music, make a copy, or get the extra part and give it to them and put it in the binder. So, what's your procedure? How do you handle questions? I think in general, for me, I don't really like to answer questions about the first 10 minutes of class. But that may not work for you, especially if you teach younger kids, or maybe that is a great strategy and you kind of shut down the questions right at the beginning and then leave time for questions at the end. Do students raise their hand? Do you like it where they call out? What do you do when they have questions? How are hall passes handled? Your school may have a very clear procedure on that, or my school, much less strict because our buildings, we have 8 buildings on campus. And so if they want to go to the bathroom, they just take the bathroom pass and go. I don't have to write all this stuff. But how do you handle your hall passes? Some schools you have to sign out. Make sure you have that procedure down. How do you handle your announcements? Do you have them posted? Do you have them laid out somewhere? Do you hand kids paper copies? Do you do digital? Where do they turn stuff in? Kids seem to struggle with this sometimes. Where do they submit their assignments? I know a lot of us have gone to digital formatting, but they are very creative. Even in the digital format, they can find a way to submit things to the wrong place. So making sure they know where to submit things. What does the traffic flow of your room look like? For my room, I have an indoor and an exit door. So they come in one way and then they exit the other. It's a one-way path. You may not have that situation. You may have only one way in and out. Do you release by section because your room maybe is too small? Or when they pack up, do you pack up by section? Or, what do you do about that? Or even things like when they go to the bathroom and they play cello, where do they put the cello? Do they leave it on the floor? Do they put it on the rack? And then how do you complete class every day? Do you finish with one culminating activity? Or does the bell ring and you're scurrying off? These are just all points to ponder to me. There's any number of ways this could go. You can think of so many great ideas, and so many of you have wonderful classroom routines that I would love for you to share in our discussion post and share with us kind of what you found that works for you. I know many of us are struggling with device usage, and that might be something really helpful for everyone in the group. So steps to setting your routine. Okay, so you know that all these little routines need to be set. And I have to have mine written down, otherwise I can't even remember what I've told the kids. But now that you know what routines you're setting, how do you get that information to the kids? So first, you either need to explain or demonstrate the routines to the kids. So giving clear directions, explaining the process sometimes or the reasoning behind, for example, we have all the cases out of the setup. There's nothing allowed in the setup. The reason why is I walk around when they're playing, adjust their bows, adjust their fingers, and I will trip over their case because I'm very clumsy. Sometimes if students just know the reasoning, and I don't think we have to explain everything to them, but I think sometimes if they know the reasoning for certain things, it helps them remember or understand that. And then if it's something you can demonstrate for them, that's really helpful. For example, we have the shoe pockets on the wall for the cell phones that are numbered. So I'll put my phone in one and just show them where it goes. And that way they know where it goes. practicing the routines, especially at the beginning point of the semester or when you're coming back. Also, at any point in the semester, if you notice the routine is starting to slide or it's kind of getting sloppy, just stop and for a few days keep revisiting. For example, let's say that you want the kids to enter class a certain way, but they're coming in a very different way. Then you stop, you send them all back out, and you practice coming back in. And you do that a few days in a row and keep repeating until they get the process. If you want students to pack up their cellos a certain way, have them practice it a few times in class. And that way they'll kind of reinforce that procedure. And then you always are going to need to remind and reinforce kids about procedures and routines. Give them feedback when they do it correctly. If everyone came in that day, got unpacked, got their activity done, sat down, got tuned, you know, thank them. I think sometimes we forget to say thank you. I really appreciate that you did this X, Y, and Z for us. And then keep revisiting the practice as needed. The more that we can be consistent, then the more they're going to follow. In general, I find that when my routines go haywire and don't work is when I haven't followed up and been consistent. Usually the buck stops with me. And so making sure that we're really keeping control of the different routines and keeping it in check, that will really help the kids have a positive and good experience in class. So a couple of tricks and tips that over the years have helped me in my classroom, and I bet some of you have some amazing ones to share. If you can be at the door to welcome the kids as they come in, I think that's really helpful. I love saying their name. I kind of stage myself halfway in the door and halfway out so I can see the room, but I can see the hall. Just say, hey. Some teachers have cool fist bump things to do. That's a lot of thinking for my brain cells, but just saying hi, how's it going? What's up? You know, using nonverbal signals. I went to a session at Midwest, and the session clinician, Jeremy Wolstenholme, talked about having nonverbal signals, walking by a kid that you consistently see bad posture with, just gently tapping. Or if you want kids to be quiet, putting your bow on your head. They put their bow on their head. That's like the universal symbol for bow on the head, mouth goes closed at our school. So our kids know that signal. So anything you can do to make signals, or if you want kids to look at you, you can just anything you can do to help them. One of my favorite nonverbal signals that we use is this. This means I've answered that question. You need to ask 5 other people. I find that especially helpful on concert days when they say my name a lot of times. So if I've answered that question and they come to me and ask me that same question, I'll just do this and they go five other people. If after 5 people they can name those 5 people and they still didn't get the answer, then I'll answer it. It generally solves itself. Make sure that you have yourself an updated seating chart to expedite attendance. Having a seating chart is important for many reasons, but it definitely helps expedite attendance. It helps keep the kids organized. I think rotating seating is really helpful. There's all kinds of systems and things that you can do to rotate seating, all the way from simply just moving the numbers around to there's Excel formulas where you can do randomization, whatever works for you, but have a clear and easy to read seating chart that makes it easy to take attendance. If you find a process or a procedure isn't working, just change it. It's your classroom. Unless it's a school rule, change the procedure if it's not working. Find what's going to work for your population, your classroom, your management style. Be very clear about cellular and wireless and all the devices now. These students have lots of systems. They have the Nintendos and they've got the cell phones and all the things. Be clear about where you want those. I think when we're not clear, that's when problems happen. My kids know they can tune with their device and then it goes away. And they know if I see it, then it's going to go even further away for a while. So making sure you're really clear. And then have backup systems in place. Like, what happens if, okay, this happens, then what do you do? So if you don't, if a kid loses music but the librarian is gone, what's the next step? The more you can plan, then you'll have less surprises, which just makes your day go smoother. Timers are wonderful for transitions or get to seat time. For example, I like to give my students about 3 minutes after the bell rings to get unpacked. We have 8-minute transitions, so a really long time. So 3 minutes is plenty of time to get unpacked, get tuned, and sit down. I like to use a big timer up on the projection. That works great. Or if I'm give the kids passage work, they have a little passage I want them to work on. I'll say, okay, take 1 minute and 30. I can set a timer up on the screen. And that just helps keep me on track and them on track. And then just have a daily plan available for students to see. Your school may require you to post agendas or I can statements or standards every day, but if the students can come in and see what you're going to do, then that kind of helps them get in the mindset for what you're going to do in class. And I'm going to show you an example of that. So this is the different slide that I use for every class every day. So this is my first period class. I have one for every period. I have their agenda. I have their upcoming events. I have our newsletter posted and linked, and I'll actually review it in class, so it's hot linked there for them, and there's a QR code for them. I have their learning targets that we're working on at different, so you can see all the different things on there, and we update that every day, and then they can come in and see exactly what's going to happen in class that day. So if you can find an agenda that works for you or some kind of daily slide, something, as simple as just writing it on the board, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. This really helps get the kids organized and let them know what to expect for that day. It also helps, like, if you're going to start with a certain seating or a certain piece, they can go ahead and have that out.